Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and welcome to the science class, and this is a lessons for year 3. If you are looking for year 6 video, you should take a look at my YouTube channel, the Science Class Brunei. So we move on to our topic, but before that, we shall recite dua. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma warzuqni fahma. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. So moving on with the topic for this week would be, we are still in Unit 1, Grouping Living Things, and the topic would be where animals live, or more specifically, the habitat where animals live. So our objective would be to group animals by the habitat they live in, and I will explain more about habitat later. And what we need to do this week would be, we shall talk briefly about habitats and then group animals according to their habitat. This lesson is quite easy to compare with last week, more or less the same. It's quite different. Okay. Now, what we have learned last few weeks would be, we have learned about grouping animals by how they move. There are 5 ways on how animals move. One is some animals walk and run. Second, some animals swim. Third, some animals jump when they want to move from one place to another. Fourth, some animals fly. And the fifth one would be some animals crawl. So another lesson that we have learned would be grouping animals by their body covering, which is divided into 3. Some animals are covered in hair or fur. Some animals are covered in feather, and some animals are covered in scales. And another grouping of animals that we have learned, that is grouping animals by what animals eat. That is, some animals are herbivores, which eat plants only. Some animals are carnivores, which means animals that eat animals only. And some animals are omnivores, which means animals that eat both plants and animals. Last week we have learned grouping animals by where animals live. That is, some animals live on land, some animals live in water, some animals live on land and in water, and some animals live on trees. And this week we shall learn about grouping animals by where animals live, that is their habitat. Okay? So let's take a look by what does it mean by animals' habitat. Animals can be grouped by their habitat, that is the type of place that they live in. There are different types of places that animals live in. Different climates, different weather. Okay? So one of it is some animals live in the desert, and some animals live in the savannah, and some animals live in tropical rainforests. Some animals live in coral reefs, and last one, some animals live in the Arctic. So these are 5 different habitats where animals live. Let me explain more detail about their habitat. The first one would be desert. Desert means, what is a desert? Desert is a place where there are little or no rain. Padang pasir. Desert is also in Malay, padang pasir. It has a very dry air, very little or no plants or trees. So nada pokok, nada tumbuh-tumbuhan because it's hot. Maybe there are some like cactus. Maybe cactus can survive. It's a maybe, it depends on places. So these are the examples of desert, would be sandy desert and rocky desert. So these places, padang pasir is very hot, quite hot. Some places have water, of course, but most of these places are hot. So what animals live in a desert? Animals that live in the desert are camels, desert snake, and then desert, no, this is not that, this is called llama. The spelling would be L-L-A-M-A, llama. Desert mouse, desert fox, desert lizard, and desert spider. We call everything desert except for llama over here. Okay? So savanna, we move on to the next habitat would be savanna. What is a savanna? Savanna is a place where there are some rain. Usually most of the year, in 1 year, dalam 1 tahun, there are less rain. Hujannya kurang. Ada hujan, yes, there are rain, but it's lesser than in our place Brunei. Like Brunei is rain almost all the time. Like in the savanna, the rain is little. Sometimes it rains, most of the time not raining. So the air is dry and there's a lot of grass and less trees. There are trees of course, but less, like in this picture. In this picture on my right, just one big tree and many bushes like that side and grass all around. And if you see here in my left, some people live in savanna here, okay? Some people that live in savanna. Let's move on. Animals that live in a savanna would be rhino, and then meerkats, hippopotamus, giraffe, hyena, deer, and leopard, and many more like lion, or elephants, and some are wildebeest, and these animals live in savanna, okay, like in the TV cartoon Madagascar. Okay, let's move on to the next habitat would be tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforest means a place where there are lots of rain, lots of sun, lots of rain, like in Brunei Darussalam. So Brunei Darussalam is in half tropical rainforest. It's wet weather, lots of grass, lots of trees, like in Brunei. Brunei, tropical rainforest. Okay, if you're talking about tropical rainforest, we talk about like in Brunei, Malaysia, or Indonesia, we have tropical rainforest. Now, these are examples of tropical rainforest. We have rivers in tropical rainforest, and we have waterfalls, and we have lots of grass, lots of trees, lots of bushes. Okay, hutan, banyak hutan. Now, let's move on to animals that live in tropical rainforest. There are many types of animals, such as monkeys, and then toucan, and then cicada. We do have lots of ants, and chimpanzee, orang-utan, and tiger, and one more, butterfly. So we have many types of animals that live in tropical rainforest. Okay. Now moving on to another tropical coral reef. Now tropical coral reef would be can find in the shallow clear sea. It's in the sea. So usually around tropical countries like Brunei. So dalam laut Brunei, not too deep. Shallow means in the dalam lah for us to swim. Of course, it's deep for us to swim, but it's not deep for animals that live there. Okay, it's shallow, it's clear, and it's in the sea. So it located in tropical areas, tempat yang panas, tropical. Banyak hujan, sangat panas, the weather is hot, the water is warm. So coral reef habitat would be around here, around Brunei. Okay. So these are example of coral reef. So these things ini semua ni, we call that coral reefs. Is the same, left or right is the same. We call that coral reef, and there are many animals that live around there. So we call this habitat, and there are animals that live there. Example would be butterfly fish, stingrays, lobster, jellyfish, sea turtle, and these animals, and shark, and these animals live in around coral reef because there are lots of food. Banyak makanan di sana. Banyak makanan, so banyaklah animalnya. So pasal banyak makanan. Okay. Now, next habitat would be Arctic. Arctic. What is Arctic? What is in Arctic? In Arctic is a place where there's lots of ice. The place is covered in ice. It is very cold. Some places have very little or no plants and trees. In some places, of course there are trees. Some places which is a bit warmer, masih Arctic but a bit warmer. But in the middle of the Arctic, there are no plants or trees like these places. There's on my right, ice saja. On my left, ice saja. And this is very cold and there are very little plants or trees. Okay. So animals that live there would be fox, wolf, fox, wolf, or maybe both are foxes, but one is a fox, of course. And then reindeers and moose, Arctic moose, and moose is very big, and this is Arctic moose. Arctic moose live in the Arctic, and snow rabbit, snow rabbit. So these 5 animals are animals that live in Arctic. What else? Polar bear live in the Arctic. What else? Seal live in the Arctic. Seal, anjing laut would live in the Arctic. Okay, so there are 5. There are 5 habitats that we have learned just now. That is desert, savanna, tropical rainforest, tropical reef, and the Arctic. So with this information, you should be able to do your exercises with the notes that I have provided and do the exercises that I have given you through Microsoft Forms. Okay, so you can print the notes and save it. So next time you can read it again. So let's recap this week's lesson. One would be animals can be grouped by the habitat they live in. Some animals live in the desert, some animals live in savanna, some animals live in tropical rainforest, some animals live in tropical coral reef, and some animals live in Arctic. Okay, okay, thank you for watching the lesson, this year 3 lesson. You can find me again next week for a new topic, which is not this one, new topic. We shall see you next week. I shall see you next week. Subscribe to my video channel. If you're new, subscribe to it. Like and share with your family and friends. Inshallah, we will see you again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.